night on this gorgeous day, which we can enjoy from the comfort of our air conditioning, which is a new joy we felt at the library recently. It wasn't working, but now it is, so just in time. Yeah, it was a poetry night miracle. Thanks again for coming. This is our poetry series. So our poetry reader tonight is Liz Nakazawa, and she was the editor of a book. We have a copy in our library. If you haven't checked it out, it's maybe a few years old by now, but it's called Dear Drink the Moon, and it's an anthology of nature poems by 33 different Oregon poets. And we have it. It's gorgeous. I checked it out. I returned it, so it is on the shelf. And then Liz has also edited The Knotted Bond, which is Oregon Poets Speak of Their Sisters, which is another collection by Oregon poets about their sisters. And then also your poems have appeared in Turn, the Timberline Review, the Poeming Pigeon, which a couple months ago, we had Sean Aveningo Saunders. So the poetry world in Oregon is both very large and diverse and also very small. And it's fun to see the same kind of names float around. And you've also written some haiku. And I am going to read right off of the biography because I love it so much. And I will say that in her free time, Liz enjoys bird watching, dancing, both folk and ballroom, calligraphy, reading, hiking and walking, identifying trees and flowers, writing snail mail letters to her son and friends, collecting old books, vintage writing papers, and stamps. I mean, that's basically like a to-do list of all the things that I'm like, I need some time. And then also, I love that you say that you feel incredibly grateful for the love and nurturing as well as friendships and community from the pulsating Oregon poetry community. And words bloom easily here in Oregon, which I think is a beautiful sentiment, and I absolutely agree. So with that, we'll have Liz read, and then afterwards we'll start the open mic. And if you haven't signed up yet, there's the clipboard at the back that you're welcome to read. But Liz, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for being here. It's just beautiful weather. You could be out water skiing. So I appreciate it. Let's see. Oregon poets really owe a debt to poets that came before us. And so here's William Stafford, Afternoon in the Public Garden. Whoops, that's my poem. Waiting by the Sea is the name of his. Sorry. This tide pool day you inhabit contains more than you need. It stirs now and then with faint news of old storms deeper than the earth. From caves around you, feelers and claws wave their greeting, and then withdraw and wait till tomorrow. Sunlight is alive when it swims down where you are, and you're alert to take in the sun, and you become a stone, and then a ghost of a stone, and then the gone water's brilliant memory of where a stone was. Making the day expand in your heart, you play a limited part in whatever life is, waiting for that great, great gift when enlightenment comes, that long instant when the tide calls your name. Thank you. So I'm going to read some poems from this book that came out in October. It's called Pulse and Weave, and it's my first full-length collection. I had a little chapbook before this. And so the first poem takes place at Ridgefield Bird Refuge, which is 30 minutes up into Washington. And I went there in the summer, and I thought, why are there so few birds here in the summer? So this poem answers that question, and it's called Empty. On the birdless day at the refuge, the morning was lento, cattails barely moving in breeze. The canal twisted, dreaming, its dream paired with cumulus clouds above. Trees knocking in wind, their colloquial speech. noon in parentheses, landscape absent of narrative drive. No songs. Just the day before, I'd mentioned to a friend minimal differences, beak size, feather pattern, stance on branch, white eye ring circling eye. But birds molt in secret come summer, begin looking messy, away from inquisitive eyes and field guides. Missing and growing feathers create gaps in wing, sometimes even a missing tail. Pre-basic molt, summer plumage, each feather formed in a horny sheath. With no birds, innocence dried and stilled, like a fermata of Schubert's held extra long. Absent common tern, cliff swallow and sparrow, only bush shadows nod and azure sky. Thank you. This next poem also takes place at the same bird refuge. There's a Celtic holiday called Imbolc. It's halfway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox, around February 2nd and 3rd. So that's what this poem's about a little bit. It's called Fate of Rain. It's Imbolc, February 2nd, and we're at the refuge. You point out differences between ducks, coots, and mallards. And when I ask you if you believe in prayer, you don't say a thing. Like the Gauls, I silently welcome a bit more of light's return. But the pagans did more on this cross-quarter day of smithcraft and healing. If it was foul weather, the Gaelic hag gathered firewood and tried spotting serpents emerging from winter dens. If clear, she slept in to declare an early spring. You pull me back to cattails and nutria. We spy a golden eagle, land and devour prey, a flash of red, an open belly, and the bird oblivious to time of year. Thank you. There are those Ice Age floods about 15,000 years ago, a series of them. And I imagined what one of them might be like. This poem's in 3 parts. It's called The Missoula Flood. 1. Deep in the Bitterroot Mountains, a finger from the Cordilleran ice sheet moved south through the Purcell Trench, dammed the Clark Fork River, gave birth to glacial Lake Missoula. Behind this plug, water rose and swelled, filling the valleys to the east. The glacier buoyant, and what wanted to be a river escaped beneath an ice dam, draining the lake and sending whirls of water to grind rock, a race through the Clark and Flathead rivers, picked apart bedrock, stripped topsoil, chiseled mazes of buttes and canyons, Palouse soil scoured deep, prow-shaped sculpturing of gravel bars, water-torn coulees and plug pool basins. In the upper coulee, the churning river yanked chunks of rock from the face of the falls. Flooding collected in the Pasco Basin, pooled at Wallula Gap, and then burst into the Columbia. Part 2. Disaster, someone once said, is something wrong with the stars. Was all this a natural tumult or a furious rampage of our insecure earth? A flood with very little reverence and no misgivings. Impudent rogue waves lumbering west to the Pacific. 3 days later, it was all over and the beast was sung to sleep. Part 3. The air was hollow and quiet, and the silence fecund, presaging the generosities of 15,000 years later. The floods begetting, the fertile valleys mint, a vineyard snaking up a gorged cliff, grapes of the loam's prime terroir, and the swale of spring. Thank you. Now for afternoon in the public garden. Portland's best kept secret is a beautiful garden overlooking the Willamette, two names, Elk Rock and Bishop's Close, off of the road that goes from downtown to Lake Oswego. So this poem takes place there, afternoon at the public garden. We come here to name flowers, 100, half the number of bones in your body, count your spine too. On the weathered bench you began, the myth of the Minotaur, half man, half bull, trapped in the labyrinth where he was fed maidens and men. All around us are interpreters, sparrows, bees, even clover have tongue. Cryptomeria lingers down a stone wall, like peacock feathers, you say. And then simile and metaphor stop just at Bold Cliff, with river barely in view, where Indians chased elk and they became food. No containment, just a strange, splashing cry. Thank you. Okay. I go crazy in the spring with the beautiful flowers, so this manic and effusive poem takes place in spring, and it's called tone painting. And tone painting is a classical music term that just means a piece of classical music depicting a scene or a story. Tone painting. How does this season get away with it? All the frenzied repetitions of daffodils and daisies, madrigal of lilies, endless bards of heather, cannons of buttercups, and the call and response of crickets between Old Testament trees. Oh, hear ye of marches, pitch and satisfactions, harmonies of sun and soil, wooing boundless metaphors of white camellia, sheltering anaphora of pink tulips, sublimity of hyacinth and nightingale, cuckoo and quail. In this splendor, life and death break bread, and an utmost wisteria rages on vine, Helleborus nip and tuck, the neighbor child's chalk drawing dormant on sidewalk before rain, pink rose petals sprinkled in her self-portrait for hair. Thank you. And this poem takes place at Portland's beautiful Japanese garden. It's called Japanese Garden in the Rain. Peeking through the pink azaleas on the other side of bamboo, framed by maple, 7 mossy stones erupt from circles of wet, white gravel. 7 stones, including a mama stone. 7, the same number of lotus leaves Buddha stepped out on when he was born. Gardeners here cut leaves of the bamboo, expose notched trunk, and prune bushes by hand. I imagine instead of fog, a sunny day, and then decide, no, I promise to love this brash rain. Cold lantern stares at the cleft of Korean dogwood, reflected in the pond. A koi swims through branches. Thank you. This is a little bit of a wacky poem, but it's called Beginning Drawing for Seniors. Yeah, people usually laugh just at the title. Yeah, okay. In this square room, there's nothing of our demise, no choking, slipping, falling, no frenzied beeping monitors or exposure of vein, just wrapped objects on the table in the center of our circle. Cube, triangle, square, rectangle, watering can, cylinder, and their accompanied demands, the struggle of white paper and charcoal. Eye-hand coordination, drawing, like driving, or diving into a particular spot in the pool gets tricky. Pascal helps us ask, in how many ways is it possible to arrange a group of objects? Square, watering can, rectangle, cylinder, triangle, cube, or the lines in a poem. Outside our windows, The day pretends not to see all of us insecure in drawing class. Ginkgo leaves, aping tiny Japanese fans, tango in the breeze. Clothespins harness bedding to a thin line. Two people walking, one points out her companion's contradictions. The season, paused before turning, waits for the eyes' irises to catch up. Drawing now with charcoal, we are yoked to our bodies, our sometimes unforgiving companions. Bodies with eyes and hands being taught to draw, drawing 6 objects that speak for us to listen. Thank you. I have one page that has just 3 haikus on it, so I'm going to pause just a little bit between each haiku. 1 brick missing. Space for a prayer. Sand in an hourglass, pulling the last perennial. In the cemetery, a river unravels. Thank you. My husband at the time, now my ex-husband, but when he was my husband, we went on a tour of Robinson Jeffers' home that he built out of stone. He's a California poet, and he built the first house that was in Carmel on a hill overlooking the ocean. And that's what my ex-husband at the time, we went on a tour, and so this poem is about the tour we went on. And it's called Tour House of Robinson Jeffers. At the cusp of land and sea in Carmel, we enter the dark cottage where Robin and Una read Robert Louis Stevenson to the twins, their small laundry flapping in the wind. By candle, wrote and played chess, the Red Horse and Queen now safely behind glass. Rarely working in wood, only stone, when he first began building his home, one quiet stone following stone. Santa Lucia granite, local rock, rolled one at a time uphill from the beach, bereft of a team of horses. Then there were the mad additions, a top stone from a pyramid of Giza, salvaged slabs of a shipwreck's ballast, abalone from an Ohlone Indian encampment on this land, obsidian from Mount Shasta, slate from the Officers' Club at Fort Ord, Portuguese tile, a gravestone nabbed from a church in Ireland that the Jeffers carried across the country in their Model T. Una said the stone turned her blood to water and reminded her of home in County Down. Robin wrote poetry in the morning and worked on the house most afternoons, while Una collected wildflower seeds from everywhere and Irish ballads. All the books he loved are veiled behind thin, gold, diamond-shaped netting. I squint to see titles as our guide points to the 1911 Britannica, the only book on display. We're shown how the couple loved to write on the wall in the den, some Spencer on a dark high beam, a line from the Fairy Queen where the Red Cross knight pursues the good. Into the bedroom we're led, and I read the poem about the deathbed before us, which Robin both hated and revered, and the one he died in during that unusual California snow, the same snow that fell the day he was born. I wasn't sure what phase the moon was in during our tour, but thought perhaps the tide had receded a bit since the time Una sewed white shirts with collars so her husband would look more like a poet. And one daily hawk watched Jeffers hew with stone. Thank you. This poem is called Sojourn to the Countryside. I want to tell you about my drive today, hugging the river, how our fears evaporate on sunny days, that this farmland cradles the oldest barn in Oregon, and there are seeds there wanting to believe in a better world, seeds for short, enduring joys and long, encouraged prayers. Haydn's quartet was on the radio, and he bid the violin to dream, while the sheep were asleep on a green knoll full of lyrical confessions. Nothing in those farms of belief or certainty, just leaves, veggies, stone, and tree, 50 miles from the sea. Thank you. I was in a dream group once, and we all came together in a circle and talked about our dreams. So this poem's called Dream Group. It's a little bit gross in one part, but anyway. Holding up your catcher's mitt to the bird flying straight at you, the next frame of the dream reveals bird in the glove with only one side showing, the left eye filling with blood. In the circle, we all become the bird, the wind, and the trees, the life list, and become those who identified the bird the week before. An artist might fill in details, blue plumage, black wing bar and nape, white crown, bird both harbinger and omen, no noise, just that mitt, poised. Most birds have hollow bones, no marrow, so they can more easily fly. But this bird's bones were filled with dream images and that terrible dead song. And I'm going to end with another poem by William Stafford called Just Thinking. Got up on a cool morning, leaned out the window, no cloud, no air, no wind, air that flowers held for a while, some dove somewhere. Been on probation most of my life, and the rest of my life been condemned. So these moments count for a lot. Peace, you know. Let the bucket of memory down into the well. Bring it up. Cool, cool minutes. No one stirring. No plans. Just being there. That's what this whole thing's about. Thank you.